Hey guys, so this is for today's class in Intro to Watercolors. And so I've brought new props today. You'll have your choice at the class. But for this part of the class exercise, we are going to be creating our own still life, interpretive still life, using as many techniques as we can. You don't have to just draw this as you see it or paint this as you see it. The idea here is to incorporate different techniques. So I'm going to start just by using, let me press a bit harder so you can see that, using really simple shapes just to map out composition. So I think I'm going to have the orange here, maybe another one here, just to kind of break that up. And let's say a sprig here, the leaves. And perhaps to add some interest, I'll have the flower coming this way. So just, some initial marks just about where you're going to put things on the page. You don't have to follow these. And the techniques I'm going to use are a wax resist, also wet on wet, and then some brush technique using just flat washes, which we'll also go over today. So to start with, for the wax resist, I'm going to go over the area that's reflecting the light on these oranges. Oh, I'll use glazing as well. Glazing is a good one. And I'll do some glazing on this first orange using complementary colors. So if you take a look at the color wheel, you'll notice that the complementary color of orange is green. So for this one, I am going to use green as a way to shade in the shadow here. And I'm going to do this by glazing. So I'll start with the green, and then I'll grab some of this orange in my palette, come over, and the wax resist is going to resist the orange, and the orange is going to blend into its complementary color, the green, to make a nice luminous piece of fruit. I can also use the lifting out technique to add even more texture to the top of this orange. And then I'm going to let this dry a little bit so that I can add more depth without it moving all over the page. And then you'll have a lot of fruit to choose from, but for this orange here, I'm going to try a dropping in technique. So I'm going to cover the whole area. And now instead of using a glazing technique, I am going to experiment by using reddish purple and orange. So I'll use reddish purple and yellow just to add to this and allow the colors to mix together to create this composition. So I'm starting off with dotting in that reddish purple. The idea here is really to experiment, so you're going to have wonderful references to choose from in this class, because I've also brought some roses, which you'll be able to pick and choose. And this technique is also working well because it's showing up some of the texture of the orange. And you'll notice that the paint isn't going anywhere that I haven't wet down. So that's the reserving space technique. So basically, while I dot this in, the paint's not going to extend any further on the page than where I've already wet the page down. I'm just going to let that sit for a bit and let those colors all kind of meld together. And now for the flower, the rose, I'm going to use some of those brush techniques that we covered in class. So Let's see, I want to mix up a cool red. So I'm going to take some red, but I'm also going to add a little bit of purple to it. And this is going to make more of a pinkish color. And then I'm just going to really dilute that. And starting from the back, I'm going to use C shapes to describe the petals, and the negative space in between is also going to help. So those little white spaces I'm leaving in between are creating space for the petals to seem like unique shapes. I'm just going to let that dry before I put in the stem, and I'm going to do another one of these just to add some symmetry to the page. So I'll do another one of these to the side, and this time looking directly at the rose. And then while I wait for that to dry, I'm going to do these leaves. So I'm going to use the dark hunter's green, but I don't want it to be quite so bright. So I'm going to add a little bit of purple to it and a little bit of the lime green to it. And I'm going to just see if I can make single marks with my brush for these leaves, trying to get my brush sort of as wide as possible in this space, using as few marks as possible. And to add some variation, I can add more bits of purple to this color as I move along the page. Also, different degrees of water will create a nice sense of variety here. And now I'm just going to use a piece of card to create stems. So I'm going to take a little bit of card, wet this down, and put some purple on it. I'll do purple and brown. And I'm going to come in between some of these leaves, just stamping this in. It's fine if they kind of bleed into each other. That creates like a really nice kind of, I don't know, blend. So it's nice to have the watercolors kind of blending into each other and just sort of seeing the different effects that you can make. So that's about dry enough now to add a little bit of the stem. So I'm just going to do that there. And I'm also going to just round this shape, the edges out a little bit. Now I want these flowers to dry a little bit more before I come in with a second layer. So I'm going to think of a sort of decorative motif to use in the background. And I'm going to just for the sake of trying new colors, I'm mixing some phthalo blue and brown. I'm going to make some leaf shapes with a single brush stroke. So I'm just pressing down on my brush, then lifting it up. got a pen with me, and I'm gonna sort of make use of the line and wash technique on some of these leaves, remembering to leave like a highlight around it. So I'm creating circles that kind of go around them, but also leave a little bit of light just to create kind of an illustrative quality. You can use the other side of the pen if you'd like to darken up some of these edges. It's nice to just experiment. So experimentation is so important with watercolor. So just trying different things is super key. And I'll add a little bit more depth to my roses now. I'm gonna add a little bit more purple to that purple red mixture. Also a little bit of brown, just to kind of tone that down a bit. And I can come back in making some of these spaces in between the petals a little bit darker. I'll make a lower chroma green by adding some orange to my sap green on the palette. Make some spikes for the roses. And then I'm going to make some little seeds kind of on the sides just to round off the composition. I'll use an orange-brown mixture in these. Again, I'm trying to be very loose with these marks, so I'm actually kind of going out of the borders to leave a little highlight. And there's a lot more that you could do here. There are just so many things that you can do with the techniques that we've learned today. Like if you want to do an outline here, there's tons to experiment with. So today, I really hope that everyone in class is going to just experiment with the techniques that we learn. I hope you enjoy the class. And if you'd like to review, this video is here for you. So thanks for watching. I'll just show you what it looks like when you take the tape off, because the reveal is always very nice. You always get a nice edge and everything looks nicely professional once we take this tape off. And there you'll have it, a watercolor work for today.